right, good day everybody. Here we are again today. Yesterday we were doing an interesting thing around this shop. Today we're going to talk more about historical facts. And we discovered them on a TV show that my wife says I can't tell you about, called Ancient Aliens.
Okay, now you blew it. We better not get in trouble for that. Ancient Aliens is one of our favorite shows, and that's always opened a lot of questions. And so I've been doing a little bit of research, and no, this doesn't come completely from Ancient Aliens, but that show has a lot of fabulous information.
The information, and the reason I brought that up is because they talk about the civilizations that were using crystals eons ago. And this is what I've been telling people for a long time. People have been using, human beings have been using crystals since day one, basically. Okay?
Many beings have been using crystals.
And yeah, other civilizations that may have been here on this planet before, and we're going to say may have. I personally believe they were, but I'm going to say may have just in case there's some incorrect information. But other civilizations are thought to have used crystals as well. And we're going to focus on 3 different types of rocks and crystals today. And Trish has done a lot of research. My wife is really always pulling my chips out of the fire because this is supposed to be, she told me this TV show was my responsibility. She didn't want anything to do with it. And here she is being basically the focus of the show. Again, because she's that way. She's really good at what she does.
Okay, the show isn't about me. Just chill. So I have some information here that I pulled that I feel is just awesome and amazing. So I want to share it with you, but I am going to deflect to my notes because that way I speak it the way it ought to be spoke, whatever. Okay, so the first historical references to the actual use of crystals come from the ancient Sumerians, that's S-U-M-E-R, and they included crystals in their magic formulas. So the ancient Egyptians used, and their favorite stones, Lapis Lazuli, they used a lot of turquoise, they used carnelian, and they used emerald and malachite. So we're going to focus mainly on these 3 stones. But before we get into that, I just want to give you a few of the tidbits that I learned along the way. And they would use these in their jewelry. The women would grind up the malachite. They would even grind up galena, which is a lead ore. It's also highly toxic. They would grind these things up and use them for makeup, eyeshadow. And they would also carve
many... They use lapis for that too, dear.
Yes.
You mentioned lapis.
The galena, the lapis, and the malachite. You can see that these 2 would make beautiful eyeshadow. The galena, lead ore, I don't know, I make my eyes really heavy. I want to sleep all day. Okay, they also carved amulets for the grave out of these stones too, because of the protection factor. The ancient Egyptians also used them for health as well as protection. And chrysolite, which later translated as both topaz and peridot, was used to combat night terrors and to purge evil spirits. So topaz and peridot are really good to have. We do have peridot in the shop. Had to throw that in. Okay, another one, when they ground up the malachite, they would do other things with it because they believed the green stones to be very, very healing. The green stone, of course, is associated with the heart chakra, and most emotion heals from the heart. So it's important to work with that when you're working with any issues of the heart. And they also found that these were used in a similar time period in Mexico as well as Egypt. So ancient Mexico and ancient Egypt used the same stones. Another popular stone that the ancient Greeks used was amethyst. And this was an interesting fact. The ancient Greeks attributed a number of properties to crystals, and many names we use today are of Greek origin. The word crystal comes from the Greek word for ice, as it was believed that clear quartz was water that had frozen so deeply it would always remain solid. That's an interesting fact. That's pretty cool. Let's see. The word amethyst means not drunken and was worn as an amulet to prevent both drunkenness and hangovers. I guess next time you go out to a party and plan on drinking, just wear amethyst. You won't get drunk. No, wait, I don't know if that's true, but if you want to try it and report back, let me know. Okay, but amethyst is a great stone this day and age. We use it a lot in addiction recovery.
Before we go far, don't drink and drive.
Even if it's your chariot, don't drink and drive. Okay? Amethyst is a stone for release of behaviors that don't work. It's a third eye stone, and it's also about spirituality. So amethyst isn't here at the moment, but we've shown you that before. Okay, hematite comes from the word for blood, like hemoglobin, because of the red coloration produced when it oxidizes.
Here you go, dear. We have some amethyst.
Okay, here's amethyst. I'm now talking about hematite. As usual, you're a day late and $10 short because I took it from him. Okay, hematite is an iron ore, and the ancient Greeks associated iron with Ares, the god of war. Greek soldiers would actually rub hematite all over their bodies before they went to battle, and they believed it made them invulnerable. Greek sailors would also wear a different variety of amulets to keep them safe at sea. So this is all, I thought, kind of really cool information. Now a lot of people come in and they'll see malachite and go, oh, jade. It's not jade. I don't have a lot of jade in the shop. I do have a little, but I'm going to go into a few fun facts about jade. As you know, most jade is associated back to China. It's been highly valued ever since ancient China, and some of the Chinese written characters represent jade beads. Now, musical instruments in the form of chimes were made from jade, and around 1,000 years ago, Chinese emperors were sometimes buried in jade armor. So I didn't know anything about that, and I think that's actually kind of cool. The first wind chimes were actually made of jade. That's neat. Okay, and they even had burial masks that were made of jade as well. And that was in Mexico that they found these jade masks. Jade was also recognized as a kidney healing stone in both China and South America. And more recently, the Maoris have a green jade. They're in New Zealand, their green magic stone, or their green shaman stone, their green stone of healing. You found the Maoris will wear this green jade pendant or amulet, and it all has to do with connecting with their ancestor spirits. And right now, I was looking at getting some New Zealand jade here in the shop, and I said, well, maybe not just yet. It's a little pricey, but it is beautiful. And at some point soon, I am going to have New Zealand jade in the shop because it is beautiful. And it has such a beautiful energy. So the tradition of green stones being lucky came partly from New Zealand many years ago. They associate that with luck. So that's pretty cool. I want to deflect back to our frozen ice here just a minute. Quartz has been widely used since the Egyptians believed it had special powers. It is also known that priests and pharaohs would put this in tubes or cylinders nearby to balance the energies in the body. I had a couple of magic wands over here, but that's all right, they're not here at the moment. So we have a friend that made some really cool magic wands out of copper tubes, and he filled them with crystals and organite. And then he's put either lapis at the top or he's put a quartz crystal there. So it's like, so this is something that's been around for quite a while. All right, Lapis Lazuli, this beautiful, beautiful blue stone. This comes out of Afghanistan. And this stone has been used in ancient Egypt for a long time. They have even used it in more recent days, like in the last several hundred years, on palace walls. They've made floors of it. They've made columns of it. So this has taken shape and been used and highly regarded for a very, very long time. This is a stone, it has to do with the throat chakra and communication in the metaphysical world. And the blue color with the pyrite in it, which kind of sparkles, to the ancient Egyptians it symbolizes heaven or the skies, the galaxies. And when you really look at it, it's like, wow, it's pretty cool. So another thing that they held in high regard were rubies. I don't know if they faceted rubies then, so this is just a rough ruby from India. This one has pyramids on it, which indicates that it's actually a record keeper. So for those that are into the metaphysical world, the pyramids on the rubies do indicate that they do have records, much like the Akashic records on a Lemurian crystal. But here's something interesting. The belly dancers would use these because they were thought to embody sexuality. So I guess maybe I should put this in my belly button and dance around the store. Or not, but it's a cool idea. Anyway, there's some fun things for you to know. Okay, Egyptians also carved amulets from crystals. Some of the stones that they use for this purpose, they use different types of agate, they use quartz, they use lapis, they use carnelian and turquoise. Now, we don't do a lot of turquoise. We've kind of left that because there's a large community of Native Americans here that work with silversmithing and turquoise. We leave that stone to the experts. We do have a few cabochons and pendants, but for the most part, we leave turquoise for them. And that's just a choice that we've made. Okay, and it's also speculated that the Egyptians' pyramids are capped with crystals to channel cosmic forces with them. Now, if you watch that really cool show that we like to watch, they believe that same thing, so that's pretty cool. And it's also believed that stones have healing powers, much like today in the metaphysical world, because of the vibration that they're at and that they send out. They do work with healing. Again, as Rodney said earlier, if you have to go to the doctor, go to the doctor. If you choose to assist yourself with healing processes, crystals are a great tool to work with. So just know
explain
that.
that a little further.
Go ahead.
So when she's talking about using crystals, I do have a doctor that has told me anything that you can do to relieve stress from your body, assist your body to heal itself. Again, if you need a doctor, go to the doctor. But they are discovering that when you relieve stress, and the more calm you can be, the more your body can heal itself. We're not saying that this is the answer to everything. If you need a doctor, go to the doctor. But there's some really cool things that I've experienced by having crystals in my life.
So back in the ancient times, they would use stones, they would make beads of lapis, malachite, and red jasper, and they would put this around a sick person's neck to alleviate them of the symptoms. And again, it comes back to vibration. The vibration of the stones, some of them will pull negative energy, pull toxins, and it comes down to calming the body to a space where healing can begin. So it's truly a beautiful thing. Yellow stones they would use for jaundice, red ones for bleeding, blue for circulation. And now we're finding that many times there's stones like shungite and copper and other stones like rose quartz, amethyst, they're putting in water to enhance, and when you drink that water, it's creating a vibration within the body to induce healing and to keep you healthy. So that's something, if you're interested in it, please look into it and see if that's something that works for you. Okay, now back in the times, they also used malachite for improving vision and treating dental and gum problems. They also used citrine for digestive issues and eating disorders, and also for treating depression and anxiety. So the Egyptians, they hold these stones very, these were their power stones. They had them in breastplates. They had many amulets. They put them in with the pharaohs when they were buried. So the big three are the carnelian, the lapis, and the malachite. So the lapis comes from Afghanistan. Malachite, the majority of the malachite that they bring out right now comes from the DRC, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, which really isn't that far. And then the carnelian comes from all over the world. You can find carnelian everywhere.
So how far do you think it is to the middle of Africa?
It's far from us, but it's not that far from Afghanistan. So
wow. Actually,
it's all about perception. Okay, so in the colorful world of the Egyptians, the lapis would represent heavens. The red jasper represented fire, life, and blood. Malachite, serpentine, and feldspar, they're all green. They were related to growth and fertility. So they made a lot of jewelry out of these stones, and the purposes for that are, again, are healing, protection, luck, and different things like that. They also did it for calming, taking care of depression. So stones can be very powerful. So again, you know, if you're not looking to use them metaphysically, but you want them just to enhance your home, they're still going to send out a vibration and bring a beautiful vibration in your home. Yes?
On the lighter side, they make unicorns. And for those of you that are old enough to remember this, here's a flying pig.
And pigs do fly. It's set in stone. See?
All right, something else.
But you'll find that there's many shapes. They'll put them. We have Buddhas, and we have pyramids and spheres and towers, dolphins. So you find all kinds of shape. We have a case with all kinds of malachite figurines, animals and things in it. And then Rodney wants to show you a couple of different types of malachite.
Okay, so most people are aware of malachite that looks like this. This has been polished on all the sides. Here's one that the back side's still natural, just been cleaned. Again, the front side's polished. Ancient Egypt. They make eggs. Now let's talk about this. This, if you can see, is this close enough, JC? Okay. This is called fibrous malachite, crystalline malachite, or, Trish, what's the third one? Velvet. That looks like velvet. Okay. If you put it under a microscope or some sort of magnifying device, this stuff that looks like velvet is actually the same crystalline structure as this over here. This grew somewhere where it didn't bubble up like mud. I know that sounds strange, but back when the earth was really pliable, a lot of things were molten, and so it acted more like mud. This was probably in either a gap in the ground where there was an air gap, it was in a cave, it could have been in a volcanic chimney. Okay, so you can find different forms of malachite in different places around the world, and just in different situations. But it looks totally different. People are like, "Wow, I've never seen that before." In fact, when I first saw it, I collected 3 or 4 pieces several years ago, and now it's becoming very popular to have this. Now, the one thing that they're going to tell you about some of these stones, like malachite, is don't eat it, okay? And if you're going to form it, which you'd be able to do with something like this, you want to make sure you're using a respirator, because why the EPA says that it's toxic is the dust. You don't want to breathe the dust into your lungs. The same thing is what happens when coal miners used to get black lung after 20 years or whatever of working in a coal mine, and they didn't wear respirators. Now, working in a coal mine, you wear respirators and you're okay. Same difference, different stone. You just want to protect yourself if you're going to carve it or anything like that. This you wouldn't be carving anyway, because it would take away from the beauty of the stone itself. Okay? And it comes in all kinds of forms. Here's one that's very interesting, and we can see, can you see that, JC? We can see that it's grown a little bit different. This one was definitely in some sort of chamber, because what we're seeing here is where the water was flowing. Okay? Now, when I say flowing, it could have been dripping very slowly, or it could have been a steady drip, but that allowed this crystalline structure to grow. Okay?
Ooh.
So I'm more fascinated with things like that. No, I'm not a geologist, not trying to be one. I just find some things pretty cool. This is raw, rough, and...
Rough, not raw, meat's raw.
My wife wants me to make sure you know that raw is for meat, okay? Anyway, this is rough, And you can see how when this was formed, it was formed in layers. Okay? This has not been polished, and so it does look rough. We'll take care of that. Okay? All right, so that's kind of where we are on this one. Now, malachite also in some places comes, and they call it chrysocolla, because malachite and chrysocolla are kind of the same thing. They're found where copper is quite often, and so it may have a bit of a blue look to it. So there's the malachite, there's the chrysocolla. Okay? So, and then every once in a while, you discover something so cool. This is called a vug. Now, it could be little, it could be large like this one, but if you see the crystalline structure? Yes? Okay, great. These little crystals are called druzy because they're so little, and they're growing.
And that's Peruvian chrysocolla.
This is Peruvian chrysocolla. Beautiful piece. This is really somewhat rare. Pretty rare. I only got about 10 pieces, and I've been after it for 3 years, and I got 10 pieces. So just so you know. So one of the things we like to do here, the reason we are called treasures and creations, the Creator created everything. Creations also include man-enhanced. Sometimes they carve it, sometimes they heat treat it, sometimes they dye it in colors. That one I don't really care for much. Some people love it, I don't, okay? I love carvings. Oh man, come to the shop, see the carvings we have. We have a unicorn with Jake. We have a unicorn, Jake. You've seen him in other episodes. He weighs 111 pounds. And his girlfriend, what's her name? I forget all the time.
Rosemary.
His girlfriend, Rosemary, they're both the same stone from the same quarry. They're called Bolivianite, and yet they look totally different until you really start looking at them and realize that they have the same chemical makeup, mineral makeup would be a better one in that case. Now, one thing that I had asked my wife Trish to do was to point out that we love different types of carvings, and this wood has been carved, and a lot of people love Buddha. Some people think they're great to have around. We have one in our house that's about this tall, sits down at the bottom of the stairs, so that when you go downstairs to our healing room, we have a Buddha. It gets you in the proper mood as you go downstairs. It's so cool, and the energy is awesome.
So for me, they create a spirit of reverence. No matter what your beliefs are, you get to choose what works for you. For me, I just feel a very calm, peaceful sense of reverence. So as we come downstairs, before you go to the healing room, it's just a moment to take a breath and just to kind of let go and release anything from the day and create a space of healing. So we have several different types of wood Buddhas. There's another one up here. JC will get some pictures and show you some of the Buddhas throughout the store. They are all for sale, and they're beautiful. They're beautiful in a rock garden, in a Zen garden, just in a garden. They're beautiful. They are all hand carved in Bali, Indonesia, and it's Sare wood, S-A-U-R-E, which is a type of a softer mahogany. So they are beautiful. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about carnelian, since it's one of the Egyptian stones. Carnelian is a type of agate. And if you look at the many different pieces here, you can see the many different faces of carnelian. It can go from a really light, like almost a translucent, like this piece is the same stone as this piece. And this piece, front and back, are very different. But that's because an agate, so there's a beautiful variety. I really like this piece because there's so much that shows up in it. And there isn't very much of the orange called a carnelian, which is absolutely beautiful. But this stone is going to be very varied. Like, look at this Merkaba. Just the striations in it, the layers, the patterns. Every piece is so different and unique. And then I have a couple of spheres that are really cool because they have a vug in them. And the vug is like a cave that's been carved out by water. And then you get little druzy crystals in it, so you get a little extra sparkle. And what's really cool is when you get a sphere like this, you can shine a flashlight in it and it lights up. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so Rodney's going to show you some sardonyx, or I guess I'm going to show you some sardonyx.
It's a cousin of
You can tell how scripted this is. This is it's an actual cousin of carnelian. It's also an agate. And the word sard comes from the Greek, and that means that that reddish orange color that you also see in the carnelian, and then the onyx would be like the white parts, the layers that come through. The sardonyx is like fancy carnelian. It's all dressed up and ready to go somewhere special. But every piece of sardonyx is so original and unique, it's awesome. This particular type actually came out of India, and we looked for it for quite a while. Sardonyx also will come in black and red. My favorite is this because it's so varied and cool, and it has so much personality. So we have sardonyx, and we have the palm stones or galettes or gallet, and we have some little spheres in the sardonyx. But in the carnelian, we even have carnelian buttons, which are pretty cool. And here's some carnelian that actually has green in it. So you'll find it'll be very varied in what it is. Now we have some cool chunks. Here's our rough carnelian. And again, it goes back to personal preference. Some people would rather have a rough stone, others like a very polished stone. But you can see the many different shapes. This shape is called a flame or a spiral. And then we have hearts, and we have what they call a free form, which is just a whatever form. So they're really cool. Oh, you want the sardonyx back? Okay, he's going to take the sardonyx back. And then we also have carnelian cats. We have a few Buddhas left, and also some Madagascan carved eagles. So this carnelian here came out of Brazil. Okay, and then the carvings here were done in Madagascar, but the stone is from Brazil. So that's our carnelian.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us again today. We are Treasures and Creations. The name of the TV show is Crystal Guardians, Rodney and Trish. Our store is located at 3419 South State Street in the city of South Salt Lake. You might as well just call
Utah.
Everybody around here just calls it Salt Lake. Okay, that's all.
Phone number is 801-679-1717, and we do virtual appointments if that's what works best for you.
So for those of you that are at a distance, you can call us. You can Instagram it. Well, I don't know about that. You can Facebook
you can message us on Instagram.
You can message us on Instagram. There's a lot of things you can do. We do ship worldwide. We successfully, I've never had anybody, I put a guarantee on it, and I've never had anybody ship anything back. They've always been more than satisfied with what we ship to them, and it's always got there in one piece in pristine condition. So
we will put a picture of our business card on, and that has all the links to Etsy and Instagram as well as our Facebook. So you can hit us up on any one of those. Follow us on Facebook. You'll be able to see each of these shows that we've done, along with the videos that I do. You know, I do several videos a week on different items in the shop that we are selling.
And next episode is, we have a very special guest joining us. Her name is Victoria
Lillenquist.
And she used to have a healing center here in Salt Lake City. At this point in time, she's out of Pagosa Springs, Colorado. And Trish and I are having the wonderful honor and pleasure of going to a training where this lady is going to be. Now, she's going to be on our next episode and at the training that we're going to as well.
It'll be fun. You'll have to stay tuned, and that's all we're going to say on that. We're just going to leave that wide open. However, I wouldn't miss it.
It might be something that, kind of like that show I mentioned.
All right. All right, folks. Again, thank you for being here. Have a beautiful day. And from Treasures and Creations, we love you.